My name is Helen, and I am 32 years old. I always believed family comes first. Always. That is why, when my career in finance finally took off, I knew exactly what I needed to do with my money. My mother struggled so much after Dad died. For years, I secretly paid every bill for her and my sister. Not a thank you, not a word of acknowledgement until that dinner when everything shattered. Before I tell you how my own mother broke my heart at that dinner table, let me know where you are watching from. And subscribe if you have ever had your kindness thrown back in your face. I grew up in a comfortable, middle-class neighborhood on the north side of Chicago. Nothing fancy, but we never went without. My dad worked as an engineer at a manufacturing company, and my mom, Harriet, was a part-time school secretary. We had family vacations every summer, usually driving to Wisconsin or Michigan to stay at lakeside cabins. Life was predictable and secure. That all changed when I was 18. Dad complained about heartburn for weeks, but refused to see a doctor. By the time he finally went, the cancer had spread everywhere. 6 weeks later, he was gone. I still remember the shell-shocked look on my mother's face at the funeral, like she could not comprehend how her life had collapsed so suddenly. I was just about to start college at the University of Illinois on a partial scholarship. We had saved some money, but not enough. Dad had life insurance, but it barely covered the funeral expenses and some outstanding medical bills. Mom insisted I still go to college. Your father would have wanted you to get your education. She said, her voice firm despite the dark circles under her eyes. We will manage. I did go, but I worked 3 part-time jobs while maintaining my grades to keep my scholarship. Every holiday and summer, I came home and worked even more, giving most of my earnings to Mom to help with household expenses. My younger sister, Grace, was different. 3 years younger than me, she always seemed to float through life expecting things to work out. Even after Dad died, she maintained this attitude. She got average grades, went to community college part-time, dropped out after 3 semesters, tried various jobs, but never stuck with anything. At 29, she still lived at home with Mom, working part-time at a coffee shop and contributing minimally to the household. After graduation, I landed an entry-level position at a financial consulting firm in Chicago. I was good at it, really good. I worked harder than anyone else stayed. Later took on the clients no one wanted. By 30, I was one of the youngest senior consultants in the company's history. My income had increased substantially over those 10 years. The financial disparity between me and the rest of my family grew increasingly obvious. Mom still lived in our family home now, showing its age with peeling paint and a roof that needed replacing. She continued working as a school secretary, but her hours were cut during budget constraints. Grace contributed little, spending most of her money on clothes and nights out with friends. Then there was Carole, my cousin on my mother's side, just 3 years older than me. Carole married Bradley, a successful real estate developer right out of college. She had never worked a day in her life, but lived in a 5,000 cubic foot house in the suburbs with a pool and home theater. Carole occasionally gave Mom gifts or took her shopping, and my mother never stopped talking about it. Carole brought me the loveliest cashmere sweater yesterday. Mom would say during our weekly phone calls, or Carole and Bradley are taking a cruise to Alaska this summer. She said she might take me to Europe next year. I tried not to let it bother me. Carole was family too, and her generosity was not a bad thing. But the constant comparisons wore me down, especially since I was the one actually keeping my mother financially afloat, not Carole. It started small. Mom mentioned her electricity bill was overdue during one of our calls. I was 25, then finally making decent money after a promotion. How much is it? I asked. Oh, do not worry about it, sweetie. I will figure it out. Carole said she might help with some bills this month. That night, I could not sleep thinking about my mother sitting in the dark. The next day, I called the utility company and paid her $200 balance over the phone. When I called Mom the next evening, she was surprised. The strangest thing happened, she said. The electricity company called and said, "My bill was paid. Must have been a computer error." I almost told her then, almost, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the knowledge that she would feel indebted or embarrassed that she needed help from her daughter. Maybe it was because I wanted to be the good child for once without having to hear about Carole. That is lucky, I said instead. Computer errors usually do not work in our favor. That was the beginning. What started as a one-time assistance became a regular occurrence and then a complete financial support system that my mother and sister never knew existed. By my late 20s, I was earning six figures at my financial consulting firm. It was good money, especially for someone my age, but I was not living the lifestyle that might be expected of a successful young professional in Chicago. While colleagues bought luxury condos downtown or in trendy neighborhoods like Wicker Park or Lincoln Park, I rented a modest one-bedroom apartment in a less fashionable area. I drove a practical 7-year-old Honda rather than the BMWs or Otis many of my peers favored. I brought lunch from home most days and limited dinners out to special occasions. None of my coworkers understood my frugality. Some assumed I was paying off massive student loans. Others thought I might be secretly saving for an early retirement. My friend Jasmine, who worked in the same department, occasionally tried to persuade me to live a little. "You work so hard, Helen," she would say. "You deserve to enjoy the fruits of your labor." If only she knew that my labor was supporting 3 adults, not one. The system I created to help my family financially was elaborate but discreet. During a weekend visit home 3 years ago, I had offered to help Mom organize her bills and set up automatic payments to make life easier. She readily agreed, happy to hand over the financial paperwork she had always found overwhelming. That weekend, I not only organized her filing system, but also gained access to all her accounts and set up online banking in her name with recovery emails and phone numbers directed to me. Back in my apartment, I established a separate checking account solely for family expenses. Each month, I transferred enough money to cover all their bills, then used the online access to make payments directly from my mother's accounts. To her, it would appear the money was coming from her own bank account, which I also quietly funded. The list of expenses I covered grew steadily. The mortgage payment of $1,500 per month, property taxes of $6,000 annually, utilities, averaging $300 monthly, car payments for both Mom and Grace, totaling $700 insurance policies, phone bills, internet service, and even the Netflix subscription they enjoyed. When unexpected expenses arose, like the $6,000 roof repair last year or Grace's $2,000 emergency dental work, I quietly took care of those too. All told, I was spending between $3,000 and $4,000 every month, supporting my family, approximately 40% of my take-home pay. It meant no vacations for me, no new car, no down payment on a home of my own. It meant picking up extra consulting projects when available and working 60-hour weeks regularly. It meant postponing my own life to ensure my mother and sister could maintain theirs. Meanwhile, my mother continued to live in blissful ignorance of financial reality. "We are managing okay," she would tell relatives and friends. "It is tight sometimes, but we make it work." What made it harder was Carole's occasional financial gifts to the family. While I was paying thousands monthly, Carole might send a few hundred for Mom's birthday or take her shopping for new clothes once or twice a year. Yet these visible gestures earned ossive praise while my invisible support went unacknowledged. "Carole is so generous," Mom would gush during our weekly calls. "She paid for my hair appointment yesterday and would not even let me thank her." Said, "Family takes care of family." Each time she said something like this, a knot would form in my stomach. Did family take care of family? Yes, I believed that wholeheartedly. That is why I was sacrificing so much. But the lack of recognition, combined with the constant praise of Carole, created a festering resentment I tried desperately to suppress. There were times I almost revealed the truth. When Mom called panicking about a letter from the mortgage company that turned out to be just an annual statement, I wanted to say, "Do not worry, I have been paying the mortgage for years." When the refrigerator died and Mom fretted about the cost, I wanted to tell her to buy whatever model she wanted because I would cover it. When Grace needed a reliable car for a new job, I wanted to explain that I was already financing her current vehicle, but I remained silent, telling myself that true generosity did not require recognition, that helping family was its own reward, that revealing the truth might humiliate my mother or create an uncomfortable dynamic. Meanwhile, the physical and emotional toll mounted. I developed insomnia, often lying awake, calculating expenses, and adjusting my budget. I skipped doctor appointments to avoid taking time off work. I declined social invitations to save money. My own life was on hold while I funded the lives of my mother and sister, who remained completely unaware of my sacrifice. As months turned into years, family gatherings became increasingly difficult for me to endure. Every other Sunday, we would have dinner at Mom's house, often with extended family, including Carole and her husband Bradley. These dinners became a showcase for the growing disparities in our lives and a stage for my mother's subtle comparisons. Carole brought the wine Mom would announce as we sat down to eat, a special bottle from their trip to Napa Valley last month. Or she would model a new blouse or pair of earrings, adding an early birthday gift from Carole. Is not she thoughtful? Meanwhile, I would sit quietly exhausted from a 60-hour work week, knowing that the very table we ate on was in a house I was paying for with electricity I funded and food I essentially purchased. The irony was suffocating. During one particularly difficult dinner last winter, Carole regaled everyone with stories of their recent Caribbean cruise, while I calculated how to cover the property tax bill that had unexpectedly increased by $800. "We should all go on a family cruise someday," Mom said wistfully. "Would not that be wonderful, Helen?" "Maybe someday," I replied noncommittally, knowing that financing a cruise for Mom and Grace would mean another year of delaying my own dream trip to Japan. My sister Grace, despite her general obliviousness, began to suspect something was not quite right with our mother's financial situation. After dinner one Sunday, she cornered me in the kitchen while Mom showed Carole her garden. "How is Mom affording everything?" she asked bluntly. "Her hours at school got cut again, but she never seems worried about money anymore." "Not like before. I busied myself washing dishes. Maybe she is better at budgeting now," Grace snorted. "Mom better at budgeting. She could not even balance her checkbook when Dad was alive. Something does not add up." I changed the subject quickly, but Grace's suspicions made me nervous. If she started questioning Mom directly, my carefully constructed system might unravel. My friend Jasmine also noticed my constant stress and financial constraints. Over lunch one day, she confronted me. "You make almost as much as I do, yet you live like you are on a quarter of my salary," she said. "What is really going on, Helen? Are you in some kind of trouble?" After swearing her to secrecy, I confessed everything. Jasmine listened with growing disbelief. "Let me get this straight," she said when I finished. "You are secretly funding your mother and sister's entire lifestyle, getting no recognition while this cousin Carole gets praised for buying occasional gifts. Put so bluntly, it sounded absurd even to me. But I defended my choices. Mom would be humiliated if she knew she could not support herself. And after everything she sacrificed for us growing up, how could I not help?" Jasmine shook her head. "There is a difference between helping and enabling. And there is definitely a difference between helping and being taken for granted. You need to be honest with them." But I could not bring myself to have that conversation. Each time I considered it, I imagined my mother's shame and embarrassment. I pictured the family dynamics shifting my role, changing from daughter to provider, the awkwardness that would ensue. And selfishly, perhaps I feared the recognition might not be what I hoped for, that my sacrifices might be minimized, or worse, expected to continue without acknowledgement. Around this time, Mom's health began to decline. Nothing serious, but increasing complaints about arthritis, fatigue, and stress. This added to my guilt about potentially confronting her regarding finances. How could I add to her burdens? Yet my own health was suffering too. I had developed stress-induced migraines and gained 15 tonsils from stress eating and lack of time to exercise. There were also moments of financial panic that required immediate action. When Grace's car broke down, unexpectedly requiring a $2,000 repair, I had to scramble to move money between accounts before she would be forced to take out a high-interest loan. When the property insurance lapsed because a payment was missed, my automatic transfer had failed due to a bank error. I spent an entire workday on the phone reinstating the policy before Mom discovered the situation. These emergencies forced me to cancel a long-planned vacation to California and postpone a minor but necessary surgery to remove a troublesome wisdom tooth. Each sacrifice added to my growing resentment. Yet, I felt trapped in the situation I had created. My therapist, whom I started seeing for anxiety, suggested I was enabling unhealthy family dynamics rather than truly helping. You are not giving them the opportunity to face reality and develop their own solutions, she said, and you are harming yourself in the process. But what if there are no solutions? I countered. Mom's income is not enough to cover their expenses. Grace barely contributes. They could lose the house. Then that might be what needs to happen, she replied gently. Sometimes people need to experience consequences before they make changes. Your sister is 29. Perhaps it is time she took more responsibility. I left that session troubled, questioning my choices for the first time. Was I truly helping my family, or was I preventing them from facing reality and finding their own path forward? The question haunted me, but I still could not bring myself to stop the payments or reveal the truth. Not yet. Mom's 60th birthday fell on a Friday in April. For weeks, I had been helping Grace plan a special celebration dinner at Salvatore's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown that Mom had always wanted to try. Though I was the one who put down the deposit and would ultimately pay the entire bill, Grace took credit for the planning, and I let her. It seemed simpler that way. The guest list included our small immediate family, plus Aunt Linda and Uncle Paul, Mom's sister and brother-in-law, and of course, Carole and Bradley. 8 people total at a restaurant where entree started at $30. Another expense I did not need, but I wanted Mom's birthday to be special. I took the afternoon off work to get my hair done and buy a new dress for the occasion, something I rarely did for myself. The navy blue sheath was simple but elegant and on sale at 50% off. Even so, I felt guilty spending $100 on myself when that money could have gone toward the property tax fund. We all arrived at Salvatore's at 7 time. The restaurant was everything Mom had imagined, with crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, and attentive servers. Her face lit up as we were led to our private dining area in a cozy alcove. "This is too much," she protested, but her pleased expression betrayed her. "Only the best for the birthday girl," Grace said, hugging Mom. I smiled tightly, thinking of the credit card in my purse that would bear the burden of this evening. The seating arrangement put me between Grace and Aunt Linda, directly across from Carole, who arrived 10 minutes late, wearing a designer dress I recognized from a magazine, probably costing more than a month of Mom's mortgage payments. "Happy birthday, Auntie Harriet," she trilled, presenting Mom with a small gift bag from an expensive boutique. "Just a little something to celebrate your special day." Inside was a crystal picture frame that Carole mentioned was from a famous designer. Mom exclaimed over it as if it were made of solid gold. The dinner progressed pleasantly enough through appetizers and salads. The conversation flowed easily, helped along by the wine that Bradley kept ordering, apparently unaware or unconcerned about its cost. I stuck to water, mentally calculating the growing bill. It was during the main course that the topic shifted to finances. Uncle Paul, always tactless, mentioned his upcoming retirement. "The pension is not what I hoped, but we have saved enough to be comfortable," he said. "Not everyone our age is so fortunate." Mom nodded. "It has been challenging since James died, but we manage more than manage." Aunt Linda chimed in. "You have kept up that big house all these years on a school secretary's salary. I have always wondered how you do it." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. I tensed, wondering if this would be the moment when questions would be asked that I could not answer honestly. Mom filled the silence. "Well, I am careful with money, and I have been blessed with support." She reached over and patted Carole's hand. "Carole has been so generous over the years. I do not know what we would do without her help." Carole smiled modestly. "Family helps family." That is what Uncle James would have wanted. I took a large sip of water, trying to swallow the lump forming in my throat. Dad would have wanted family to help family. That was exactly why I had sacrificed so much. Yet here was Carole, who had given perhaps a few thousand over the years, receiving credit for keeping our family afloat, while my contributions of over $100,000 remained invisible. Mom continued. "Just last month, when the water heater broke, Carole sent money right away. I almost choked. I had paid $4,000 for that water heater replacement. Carole had sent a check for $500, which I had deposited into Mom's account along with my own $3,500, and she helps with bills regularly." Mom added, "Such a blessing." Uncle Paul raised his glass. "Well, then a toast to Harriet on her birthday and to those who support her." Everyone lifted their glasses. I raised mine mechanically, feeling numb. After the toast, Mom announced she had a gift for me. She reached into her purse and pulled out a card, a small thank you for my dependable daughter. Inside the card was a gift certificate for $10 to a coffee shop near my office. $10. After everything I had given, I tried to smile and express gratitude, but something must have shown on my face. "What?" Mom asked. "You only sent 10 cents. For a moment, I did not understand what she meant. Then I realized she was referring to my birthday gift to her a month ago. A simple card with a check for $200, a small token on top of the thousands I spent supporting her monthly. 10 cents? I repeated, confused. Your birthday check? She clarified. It was for $210. Such an odd amount. We laughed about it. Did not we, Grace? I said to her. Why not just make it $200 even? Why add the 10 cents? Grace looked uncomfortable. Mom, I am sure it was just Carole covers all the bills anyway. Mom continued patting Carole's hand again. So your little contribution was sweet, but unnecessary. Something broke inside me. Months, years of silent support and hidden resentment bubbled to the surface. I leaned forward and whispered, I have been paying everything. Mom frowned. What did you say, dear? I said, I have been paying everything. The mortgage, the utilities, the car payments, everything for years. The table fell silent. Carole shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Bradley suddenly became very interested in his pasta. Mom's face flushed. Helen, that is not funny. Do not try to take credit for Carole's generosity. It is not a joke, Mom. I have been transferring money into your account every month. Thousands of dollars. Carole gave $500 toward the water heater. I paid the other $3,500. Mom's expression hardened. Stop it right now. You are embarrassing yourself. I have receipts, I said, my voice shaking. Bank statements, transfer records, everything. Aunt Linda and Uncle Paul exchanged glances. Grace stared at her plate. Stop stealing her glory, Mom snapped, gesturing toward Carole. Just because you are jealous of her success does not give you the right to make up stories. Jalouse? I repeated incredulously. I have been working 60-hour weeks to support you and Grace. I have not taken a vacation in 3 years. I still rent because I cannot afford a down payment on a house. And you think I am jealous of Carole? Mom stood up, napkin thrown onto the table. I will not listen to this. Not on my birthday. Carole has been our rock, and you cannot stand it. I looked around the table at the shocked faces, then at Carole, who had the decency to look ashamed. Has Carole been paying your mortgage? I asked quietly. Ask her right now. Ask her if she has ever made a single mortgage payment for you. Mom turned to Carole expectantly. Carole cleared her throat. I have helped with some expenses here and there, but not the mortgage specifically. The color drained from Mom's face. She sat down heavily. I could not bear to stay any longer. I stood up, placed my credit card on the table beside Grace. This will cover dinner. Consider it my last contribution. Then I walked out. Tears streaming down my face as I made my way to the parking lot. Behind me, I could hear Grace calling my name, but I did not stop. In my car, I broke down, completely sobbing until I could barely breathe. Years of silent sacrifice and unacknowledged support crashed down on me at once. My phone rang repeatedly, Grace's name flashing on the screen. I ignored it, starting the car and driving home in a daze. That night alone in my apartment, I made a decision that would change everything. No more secret payments, no more enabling, no more sacrificing my life for people who did not even recognize what I was giving. I did not sleep that night. How could I? As I paced my small apartment, I replayed the dinner scene over and over in my mind. The shock on everyone's faces, the anger and dismissal from my mother, the uncomfortable silence from Carole, the confusion from the rest of the family. By dawn, my mind was made up. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and began systematically canceling every automatic payment I had set up for my mother and sister, the mortgage company, the utility providers, the insurance companies, the car loans. One by one, I removed my financial support from their lives. With each cancellation, I felt a mixture of guilt and liberation. Was I doing the right thing? Would this hurt them more than help them? But then I remembered my mother's words at dinner. Stop stealing her glory. After years of support, that was all my contribution meant to her. An attempt to steal someone else's credit. Later that morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Then I made 2 appointments, one with my financial advisor and one with my therapist. Mark, my financial advisor, was shocked when I explained the situation. "So, you have been spending nearly half your income supporting your family without their knowledge?" he asked, reviewing the figures I provided. "For how long?" "About 3 years officially, though I was helping irregularly for several years before that." He shook his head. "Helen, this was unsustainable. Even with your income, you have been sacrificing your own financial security, retirement savings, and quality of life." "I know that now," I admitted. "I just did not know how to stop." Together, we created a new financial plan focused on rebuilding my savings and planning for my own future. For the first time in years, I looked at my finances in terms of what they could do for me, not for my family. It felt selfish, but necessary. My therapist, Dr. Winters, was equally supportive of my decision to stop the payments. "This was an unhealthy dynamic that you enabled, but that your family perpetuated," she said. "Breaking this pattern is difficult, but necessary for everyone involved." "But what if they lose the house?" I asked, the guilt creeping back in. "What if they cannot pay their bills? Then they will need to find solutions just like other adults do," she replied firmly. "Your mother is capable of working full-time. Your sister is young and able-bodied. They have options they have not been forced to consider because you have been their safety net." I nodded, trying to believe her words. "I just never wanted them to struggle the way we did after Dad died." "That is understandable, but protecting people from all hardship often prevents them from developing their own strength and resources. Over the next week, I maintained my distance from my family. My phone was flooded with missed calls and text messages, primarily from Grace, a few from Mom. I read the text but did not respond. "Grace, what happened at dinner? Are you okay?" "Please call me." "Grace, Mom is really upset. She says you made a scene for no reason." "Grace, Helen, please, we need to talk about this." My mother's messages were less concerned, more defensive. "Mom, I do not know what got into you at dinner. Very disappointing behavior." "Mom, we need to clear the air. Call me when you are ready to apologize." It was only after 10 days of silence that the tone of the messages changed. Grace called late one evening, leaving a voicemail that made my stomach clench. "Helen, something weird is happening. We got a notice about the electricity being past due, and the mortgage company called about a missed payment. Mom keeps saying it must be billing errors, but I am worried. Please call me back." I did not call back. Part of me, the part that had been taken for granted for so long, felt a grim satisfaction. Let them see what happens when my support is removed. Let them face reality, for once. 3 days later, Grace called again, panic evident in her voice. "The electricity company is threatening to disconnect service next week, and we got an official late notice from the mortgage company with late fees. Mom tried calling Carole, but apparently she and Bradley are in Europe for a month." "Helen, what is going on? Mom keeps saying everything is fine, but I know it is not." Again, I let the call go to voicemail. I was not ready to engage, not ready to explain. They needed to feel the full impact of the situation before I would step in with explanations. Nearly a month after the birthday dinner, my mother finally called with a different tone. "Helen, sweetheart." Her voicemail began her voice tense, despite the endearment. "We seem to be having some financial issues. I am sure it is just temporary, but if you could possibly lend us some money until we sort things out, I would be very grateful. Call me back when you can." No acknowledgement of her behavior at the dinner, no apology, just an expectation that I would step in and solve the problem as I always had. That evening, I received a text from Grace that changed everything. "Emergency. Just got notice of foreclosure proceedings if mortgage isn't brought current in 15 days. Mom finally admitted we're in serious trouble. Please help. We're going to lose the house." I took a deep breath and typed back, "I'll come over tomorrow evening at 7. We need to talk. All of us." It was time for the truth to come out. All of it. I arrived at my childhood home at precisely 7 o'clock the next evening. The front yard, usually impeccably maintained by a lawn service I secretly paid for, already showed signs of neglect. The spring flowers had not been planted, and the grass needed cutting. Grace opened the door before I could knock her face pale with worry. "Thank God you are here," she said, pulling me into a tight hug. "Mom is in the kitchen. She has been crying all day." I steeled myself as I walked through the familiar hallway into the kitchen. Mom sat at the table surrounded by papers, her reading glasses perched on her nose, her hair uncombed. She looked up when I entered, and I was struck by how much older she appeared than just a month ago. "Helen," she said, rising to her feet, "thank you for coming." Her tone was conciliatory but not apologetic. She gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit, please. We have a situation I need your help with." I remained standing. "What kind of situation, Mom?" She sighed, removing her glasses. "A financial one. Obviously, everything seemed fine, and then suddenly nothing is being paid. The mortgage is 2 months behind. The utilities are sending disconnection notices. Both car payments are late. It is like someone turned off a faucet." I met her gaze steadily. Not someone. Me. Grace, who had taken a seat at the table, looked between us in confusion. "What do you mean what I tried to tell you all at the birthday dinner? I have been paying all the bills for this household for the past 3 years. Every month, I transferred money into Mom's account to cover everything. After the dinner, I stopped. Mom's face flushed. That is ridiculous. Carole has been helping us." "Has she?" I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and placed it on the table. "Let me show you exactly how much I have transferred into your account over the past 3 years. I scrolled through the transaction history showing monthly transfers ranging from $3,000 to $4,500, depending on expenses that month. "This is just from my main checking account," I explained. "It does not include the emergency fund I set up for unexpected expenses like the roof repair last year or the water heater replacement." Grace stared at the phone in disbelief. "All this time it was you." Mom shook her head. "No, this must be some mistake. Carole told me she was helping with the bills. Exactly how much does Carole give you each month, Mom?" I asked quietly. "Well, she sends money regularly." "How much and how often?" Mom hesitated. "It varies. Sometimes a few hundred for birthdays and Christmas. And she paid for the water heater. She gave $500 toward the water heater. I paid the remaining $3,500. I corrected. "Carole has given you gifts and occasional money." "Yes, but I have been the one keeping this household solvent. For years, I pulled a folder from my bag and spread the documents on the table. Bank statements, transfer records, bill payments, all meticulously organized and highlighted. The mortgage payment is $1,500 a month. Your take-home pay is approximately $2,000. Grace contributes maybe $400 when she remembers. That leaves you with $900 for everything else. Utilities, groceries, insurance, car payments. The math does not work, Mom. It has never worked. Not since Dad died." Mom stared at the papers, her hands trembling slightly. "I do not understand. Why would you do this in secret? Why not just tell me you were helping? Because every time I tried to help openly, you minimized it. Because you were always comparing me to Carole, praising her for doing so much less. Because I thought you would be embarrassed to know you could not support yourself." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "All those times you said you could not afford to go out or take vacations or buy new clothes, it was because you were supporting us." I nodded. "I have been putting 40% of my income into this household every month. That does not leave much for my own life." Mom's expression hardened suddenly. "So this is what some kind of power play. You support us secretly and then hold it over our heads when you feel unappreciated." The accusation stung. "No, Mom. I supported you because I love you because I wanted to help after everything you did for me growing up. I never planned to tell you, but at the dinner, when you mocked my small birthday gift and gave Carole credit for everything I have been doing, something broke. Do you have any idea how that felt? So, you decided to punish us by cutting us off completely." Without warning, Mom countered. "We could lose the house, Helen. I decided to stop enabling a situation where I was taken for granted while someone else got credit for my sacrifice," I replied, my voice rising. "I decided it was time for some honesty in this family." Grace intervened. "Mom, Helen has been supporting us for years. She has every right to be hurt." Mom turned on Grace. "And where have you been in all this? 29 years old and barely contributing to this household, working part-time at a coffee shop with no ambition for anything more." Grace recoiled as if slapped. "That is not fair. None of this is fair," I exclaimed. "It is not fair that I have put my life on hold to support both of you. It is not fair that Mom praises Carole for token gestures while dismissing everything I do. It is not fair that Grace has never had to face adult responsibilities because we have both sheltered her." The kitchen fell silent. Mom sat down heavily, staring at the financial documents spread before her. Grace wiped away tears. "All this time," Mom said quietly, "I really believed we were managing on our own with just a little help from Carole. You wanted to believe that? I said it was easier than facing reality. And the reality is that I am a failure," Mom whispered. "I could not even support my family after your father died." My anger deflated at the sight of her pain. "No, Mom. The reality is that you did your best with what you had, but your salary was never going to be enough to maintain this lifestyle. There is no shame in that." "Then why keep it a secret?" she demanded. "Why not just tell me you were helping? Because every time I tried to help openly, you made me feel like it was not enough, like I was less than Carole. Do you know how many times you have compared us? How many times you have praised her wealth and lifestyle while dismissing my career and choices?" Mom looked startled. "I never meant to compare you, but you did constantly. And it hurt, Mom. It hurt to work so hard to sacrifice so much and still feel like I was somehow falling short in your eyes." Grace moved to sit beside me, taking my hand. "I had no idea you were doing all this, Helen. I feel terrible." "You should," I said bluntly. "You are an adult, Grace. You should have been contributing more, developing a career, taking responsibility for your life. Instead, you have been coasting, letting Mom and me carry you." She nodded, not defending herself. "You are right. I have been selfish and lazy." Mom was still processing the documents before her. "Over $100,000, she murmured, looking at the total I had calculated. "You have given us over $100,000. $17,432,118 to be exact," I confirmed, "not including dinners out, groceries I brought over, and gifts." "And I thank Carole instead of you, Mom," said her voice breaking. "I dismissed your $200 check as insignificant while praising her for much less." For the first time, I saw genuine realization in her eyes. "I have taken you for granted," she admitted. "Worse than that, I have been blind to everything you have done for us." Tears filled my eyes. "All I ever wanted was for you to see me, Mom. To value what I contribute, not just financially, but to our family. To be proud of me the way you are proud of Carole." "Oh, Helen." Mom rose and came around the table, wrapping her arms around me. "I am proud of you. So proud. I have always been. I got caught up in Carole's flashy lifestyle and gifts. They were visible, tangible. I had no idea what you were doing behind the scenes. I let myself be held, years of hurt and resentment flowing out with my tears." "I do not know how we will manage now," Mom said, pulling back to look at me. "The truth is, you are right. My salary is not enough. Grace's contribution is minimal. We cannot afford this house and our current lifestyle without help." I know I said that is why we need to talk about what happens next. All of us honestly and openly. For the next 2 hours, we had the most truthful conversation our family had experienced in years. We discussed finances, expectations, responsibilities, and feelings. Grace admitted her lack of direction and commitment. Mom acknowledged her denial about our financial reality and her unfair comparisons. I confessed my resentment and the toll the secret support had taken on my life. By the end of the evening, we were emotionally exhausted, but clearer about our path forward. The truth, painful as it was, had finally been spoken. Whether we could build something healthier from this foundation remained to be seen, but at least we were no longer living in a fantasy built on my silent sacrifice. A week passed after our confrontation, giving all of us space to process what had happened. During that time, I consulted again with both my financial advisor and therapist to help navigate the path forward. "You have done the hardest part," Dr. Winters assured me. "You have broken the cycle of enabling and brought the truth into the open. Now you need to establish healthy boundaries moving forward." Mark, my financial advisor, helped me create a sustainable plan that would allow me to assist my family without sacrificing my own financial well-being. "Supporting family is admirable," he said, "but not at the expense of your own security and future." When we reconvened at Mom's house the following weekend, I brought printed copies of this plan. Grace had texted earlier to let me know she had big news to share as well. The atmosphere was markedly different from our previous meeting. The kitchen table had been cleared of past due notices and replaced with a homemade dinner. Mom had made my favorite lasagna a peace offering of sorts. Before we discuss anything else, Mom began as we settled at the table. I need to apologize properly. Helen, what I said at my birthday dinner was inexcusable. I have been thinking about it constantly. How I dismissed your generosity while praising Carole for doing so much less. I was wrong, and I am deeply sorry. Her eyes were sincere, her voice steady but emotional. And I am sorry for taking your support for granted all these years. She continued, You sacrificed so much for us, and I never even knew it. That stops today. I owe you an apology too. Grace added, I have been selfish and irresponsible. You and Mom have been carrying me while I contributed almost nothing. I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. Thank you both. That means a lot to me. Now, Mom said, we need to talk about practical matters. I called the mortgage company and explained our situation. They are willing to work with us on the missed payments, but going forward, we need a sustainable plan. I nodded, pulling out the documents I had prepared. I have been working on that. I am willing to help, but things need to change. Absolutely, Mom agreed. Which brings us to our first change. She looked at Grace expectantly. Grace straightened in her chair. I got a full-time job. Starting next Monday, I will be an administrative assistant at Wilson Accounting. It is entry-level, but it includes benefits and has potential for growth. I will be making $42,000 a year. I stared at her in surprise. Grace, that is wonderful. How did this happen so quickly? I have actually been interviewing there for weeks, she admitted. I was too embarrassed to tell anyone because I did not think I would get it. But after our talk, I followed up aggressively and convinced them to take a chance on me. I am so proud of you, I said, genuinely impressed by her initiative. There is more, Grace continued. I found a roommate situation closer to downtown. The rent is reasonable, and I will be moving out next month. That means I can contribute $500 monthly to help Mom until we figure out a long-term solution for the house. Mom reached over to squeeze Grace's hand. Which brings us to my news. I have applied for a full-time position at the school. The administrative director is retiring, and I have more experience than any other candidate. It would mean a significant salary increase if I get it. I looked between them, amazed by how much had changed in just 1 week. These are all positive steps. We know it does not solve everything immediately, Mom acknowledged, but it shows we are serious about changing the dynamic. I nodded, then shared the plan I had developed with my financial advisor. Instead of secretly funding everything, I would provide a fixed monthly contribution for a limited time period, gradually decreasing. As Mom and Grace became more financially independent, everything would be transparent with regular family meetings to discuss finances. This seems fair, Mom said after reviewing the numbers. More than fair, considering everything you have already done, and I promise, Helen, your support will never again go unacknowledged. There is one more thing I added. The house. It may be time to consider whether keeping it makes financial sense. A shadow crossed Mom's face. This was our family home. Your father and I raised you girls here. I know, I said gently, and there are a lot of memories here, but it is also a financial burden. The mortgage is high, the maintenance costs keep increasing, and it is more space than you need now. Grace nodded in agreement. Mom, Helen is right. Once I move out, you will be rattling around in this big house alone. I will think about it, Mom conceded, perhaps in a few months when things are more stable. We continued our discussion late into the evening, addressing practical matters, but also the emotional aspects of our relationship. For the first time in years, I felt heard and valued within my family. The following weeks brought more changes. Grace started her new job and approached it with unexpected dedication. Mom interviewed for the administrative position and was called back for a second interview. I began reclaiming my own life, scheduling the minor surgery I had postponed, and researching vacation options for the summer. Mom made small but meaningful gestures that showed she was working to repair our relationship. She stopped mentioning Carole constantly and instead began asking thoughtful questions about my work and life. She expressed genuine interest in my achievements and challenges. When Carole and Bradley returned from Europe and heard about the family financial difficulties, they offered to host a family dinner to discuss how they could help. Mom surprised me by declining. Thank you for the offer, she told Carole over the phone with me sitting beside her. But Helen, Grace, and I are working through this together. We appreciate your concern, but this is something we need to handle as a core family unit. After hanging up, she turned to me with a small smile. Some support comes with too many strings attached. 3 months after the confrontation, we gathered for Thanksgiving at my apartment, the first holiday not held at the family home. Mom had news to share. I got the administrative director position, she announced as we sat down to dinner. And I have decided to sell the house. I found a lovely 2-bedroom condo that will be perfect for me. The mortgage will be half what I am paying now. I reached across the table to squeeze her hand. I am so proud of you, Mom. I could not have done it without you, Helen, she replied. Not just the financial support all these years, but the push to face reality. You were right. I was living in denial, and it was not fair to any of us, especially you. Grace raised her glass to new beginnings and honest relationships. We clinked glasses, and I felt a profound sense of peace. The past few months had been challenging, but transformative. My bank account was healthier. I had finally booked my dream trip to Japan for the spring. And most importantly, my relationship with my family had evolved into something more authentic and balanced. Later that evening, as we cleaned up the kitchen together, Mom paused beside me at the sink. You know what I am most thankful for this year? She asked softly. What? That you had the courage to stop paying those bills. She said, as painful as it was, it forced us all to grow up and see each other clearly. You gave us something far more valuable than money, Helen. You gave us the chance to become better versions of ourselves. I thought about the journey we had traveled together from secret payments and unacknowledged sacrifices to honest conversations and shared responsibilities. It had not been easy, and we still had work to do, but we were moving in the right direction. The experience had taught me that true family support requires honesty, mutual respect, and healthy boundaries. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is stop enabling behaviors that harm those we care about, even when that feels like the harder path. What about you? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with people you love? Comment below with your experience. Did you struggle with guilt like I did, or did you find it liberating? Subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to prioritize their own well-being. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most beautiful transformations.